Very sorry about that. I accidentally set up this scene without my mic prepared, so sorry about that. Alright. Yes, that was Doom Time. That happened earlier, real name. This is Danganronpa 0. Book 1, at least. Anyways, I created this little crappy thing for you guys. Is the music too loud? Let me know. I'm not sure if it's loud or too loud or, you know what. I just want to have something in the background while I read this. So I'll let people catch up and let me know what's happening, if they like it or not, whatever. Everything here was chosen by random. I just found whatever I could, gifs and pictures, anything that was transparent. And once the music is good, a good level, I will. Alright, that's what I figured, probably. Hopefully, because unfortunately, is this a good? Hopefully this one's good now. I've loaded by quite a bit. At least a good 10 decibels, so hopefully that's good now. Alright, good. Alright, so this will be a little bit different. I will be reading the book thanks to Iru, who supplied me with the link. And basically, I will probably not be reading your comments a lot. So you can talk amongst yourselves. That's hard, pork chop. What I have right now is a playlist. It's a video on YouTube. It's gonna be hard to do that as I'm reading. You know, I plan to just read as much as I can. So this is just a video with. This is an hour and a half worth of Danganronpa music. So, you know, basically it's already set to go. You know, that with introduction stuff out of the way, I think it's time to start reading it. So here I go, starting with Chapter 1. There are no chapter names though, so from this point on, I will only be looking after I finish a chapter. And it looks like it may be short, so I can probably finish this today even. I'm not a slow reader, and since I'm just going to be reading this, I'll be much faster at it. But I'm going to try and not read it too fast. I'm going to make sure that... the new box. Alright, you guys ready? I'll be starting right now. So hopefully I do good at this. That's all I'm going to say, you know. Since you only have my voice to go with it. I'm not going to try and do voice acting or anything. I'm just going to try and read it well. Alright. Enoshima Junko despaired. Anything and everything ended up just the way she wanted. Everything concluded just as she had hoped, and so she despaired. Why does it always run so smoothly? A hot magma boiled up from the pit of her stomach and exploded as it reached her chest. It spread from her heart and flowed through every muscle in her body. Water was slowly growing around her feet. She could hear it splashing around as droplets danced around her. Looking more closely, you could see the water dripping down was a bright red. She took a step, and the bright red water met her feet and showered across her. Her clothing was dyed red with blood. Her hair was dyed red with blood. Her face was dyed red with blood. But the girls didn't care. She was intent on just trampling the ground. Then, with her entire being, with everything she could muster, with her whole body and soul stomped her foot. She slammed her foot to the ground as if she were a demonic beast on a rampage. And she then yelled a curse at herself. This isn't it. Her screams echoed around her, like a stone shattering into small pebbles. But still she continued. More. More, she screamed. More. I want a more despair-inducing despair. And she continued stamping her foot to the ground. A more despair-inducing despair. Yes, that's what she wished for. She wanted the world to be in despair, and she wanted herself to be taken by despair. More, more, more. A more despair-inducing She stopped in mid-sentence suddenly. A spark of an idea interrupted her tirade. Her surprised expression remained on her face. Her entire body was dyed red, smooth, motionless, and still. That's right, she whispered to herself. There was a tap inside her skull, like someone pressed a switch, and slowly her entire brain lit up with a notion. Several faces appeared. Of course, they were faces she knew. They were the faces of Hope's Peak Academy classmates. Oop, 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 oop. A tremble shook through her body and her lips curved into a smile. She smashed her foot to the earth once again as she cackled and shook. Stupid laugh, I know. Her frenzied stomping became like a dance. Joy and excitement radiated through her as she danced, and she found that she just couldn't stop herself. Amazing. How incredibly amazing. Remembering the faces of the people who would bring her such despair, she felt something that was similar to a person in love, and she danced the rhythm of despair. This is it. This is a fantastic despair. Super high school level despair. Enoshima Junko reveled in this despair, smiling and dancing like a madman. This is where it begun. This is where a story that ended in despair at the end begun. And that was the first one, and that was this. There you go. That's roughly how I'm going to do it, pretty much. I'm just going to read it, and then I'll move on from there. So that was the first page chapter. I'm not really sure how it goes in this, but let's continue on. I'm now going to take less breaks in between and pretty much continue on flowing. This takes place right after Danganronpa 3 Side Despair, huh? I don't know anything about that yet. Alright, so I'll probably take less breaks now and go more and more into reading it. Hope's Peak Private Academy. Well, they had the private in it. That kind of surprised me. Only high school students with special talents are allowed into this school sanctioned by the government. They are taught so they can become the hope of the country. It's a school that was deserved to be called the School of Hope. Therefore, since people would say any student that graduates from this school will become successful in life, it attracted some envy. Seeing as how now most graduates are employed in high positions in their profession, it would not take a genius to realize it was not a simple exaggeration. There are 2 requirements in order to enter Hope's Peak Academy: to be currently enrolled as a high school student, to be the very best in their chosen field. There is no entrance exam required to enter Hope's Peak Academy. Since the students entering all have different talents, it would not make sense. That's one of the school's policies. Students are scouted out by Hope's Peak Academy faculty members who are also researching and teaching such talent. They said these faculty members and staff are very much like the foster parents of talent, finding talent and then nurturing it. To them, it was a very important mission. But now the school was facing a previously unprecedented and unheard of crisis. Hope's Peak Academy, East District, Faculty Building. The building lined in the East District were forbidden to student entry. Now, inside the building, it was engulfed in a tranquil quietness. The corridors that were once overflowing with the faculty members and staff are now completely empty. Private rooms, large rooms one would believe were faculty rooms, were all deserted. Everyone who was in there was all gathered in one place. Meeting room number 13. Located on the top floor, holding a capacity of 300 people, it was boasted as the largest in the school. Right now, the school's faculty members had gathered in that meeting room. It was at full capacity. No seats were available at the long table crammed with people. However, it was strangely quiet. Inside the meeting room, only one person's voice could be heard. The owner of that voice was Hope's Peak Academy headmaster, Kirigiri Jin. He was positioned at the front of the table, face to face with the faculty members who had gathered, indifferently reading a document he held in his hands. Without even a glimpse of emotion, he read each word off the page with a straight face, no different to an audio recording. Nevertheless, this was an important duty for Kirigiri. It was his duty to communicate the decision to all the faculty members. No matter how little sense it seemed to make, no, he had no time to harbor any doubts or hesitations to begin with. If he had the time, he would be attending to a number of things. Are you telling us to cover it up? A voice suddenly echoed through the meeting room. In response, he raised his head to the sight of 300 people opposite him. They weren't glaring or judging him. It was more as if they were staring at him, feeling uncomfortable. With little defense, he felt as though they were grabbing at him through their gazes. He had a bad feeling as all the hairs on Kirigiri's body stood on end. As if trying to escape their sight, Kirigiri looked to the 4 people to the right of him. They were sitting at the front of the same table, all their faces creased with wrinkles. With their eyes closed tightly, the wrinkles became increasingly noticeable. From Kirigiri's position, you could see they four's wrinkles blurred together into one massive wrinkles. Okay, the translation was not the best, but I'm going to assume there are going to be translation problems here sometimes, so sometimes it won't. The Danganronpa games had a bit too. That was a weird thing to say. The members of Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee's expression seemed to say they had already given up. That's just like you. He intentionally gave a bitter grin at the thought. Well, it's not like I hoped for anything better from you. He only muttered this quietly in thoughts that no one would hear. With that, Kirigiri redirected his gaze in front of him. From that point onward, he was using his own words, he had decided. First, allow me to say something. Kirigiri went to remind them. This is a decision Hope's Peak Academy's steering committee had made earlier. The air lowered in temperature, or perhaps it was his own body temperature rising. In any case, Kirigiri wet his mouth with the glass of water in his hand before continuing. We know this decision may be rather abnormal. The massive wrinkles, that is the we he mentioned, did not move at all, as though they knew from the very start the attitude he would take to express his words. But do not assume we are covering this up for any other reason. If possible, I would be taking responsibility for this, but a matter of this relevance cannot be taken care of that way. It would not help even if each and every one of us took responsibility. This is something that is on an entirely different level. Kirigiri paused to sip the rest of his water. I will occasionally also mute my mic to clear my throat while I read this, because it will happen on occasion. Nope, that's not the right thing I want to do, though. We'll just get here instead. Alright then. That's all I need to do. Make no mistakes. I do not think our decision is a perfect one. If it were, that parade wouldn't be happening. Kirigiri gestured towards the curtained window. Some people turned to look at the window bitterly. Instead, that parade has been increasing recently. Those people in it hate us, and I don't think they're wrong for doing so. At that point, Kirigiri slowly looked around the room at the faces of the faculty members. He communicated his meaning clearly through his expression to everyone. I do not think our philosophy of hope of all humanity is wrong, but if they were to learn of that incident, the meaning of that philosophy is as good as gone. That is a far too greater loss for mankind. Neither the Support Association nor the Alumni want such a thing. The Support Association and Alumni. The meeting room was filled with whispers. And that is why Hope's Peak Academy Steering Committee's 4 members and I have come to the conclusion that we should cover this up. Kirigiri let his gaze wander to the old men again. They were still as they were before. Leaving it entirely to him, they remained silent and expressionless. As I have already said, we know that this decision is abnormal, but as the researchers and educators, it is our duty to protect talent. There is nothing more tragic than if hostility was directed towards those with talent. Also, we must remember one more thing. The 300-man faculty patiently waited for Kirigiri's words. No matter how horrid the crimes committed were, I will not change the fact that student is very special hope we raise ourselves. That was not a good way to write it, but okay. The stares of the faculty members changed. However, no one even murmured a whisper. It was simply silent. No one objected. What he said could not be countered. Although his statement was perhaps narrow-minded, everyone had a similar view on the matter. They were all researchers, but at the same time they were all teachers, and their students were theirs to study. They were all obsessed by the thing called talent. If you weren't someone like that, you did not belong here. That is why they listened to Kirigiri and made their decision. For the idea they believed in, for the future they believed in, for the hope they believed in, they would conceal the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peaks Academy's history. The horrible event they're talking about? Oh, that's probably the revolt of the reserve students. Would it not be? Well, of course, unless you say it's about something else. I don't know. I'm just going by what I know. I don't know everything yet. Obviously, have not watched nor played everything. Next one. A yellow cat peeked out from the bush beside the pavement. The cat wobbly stepped out from the grass onto the road while it lazily moved its tail and looked expectantly, if not thoughtfully, at me. However, its eyes were immediately cautious, and they soon turned to fear. As I was skipping along the pavement, the cat assumed I was a threat and quickly retreated to the bush. But such a thing didn't matter to me. The sun's cheering light covered my body as my skirt fluttered. I continued slightly skipping. I was in Hope's Peak Academy's East District, in the courtyard. The area was filled with newly constructed buildings and facilities, and even some buildings still in construction. I almost acted like a stitch between the lines of buildings. Taking no notice of the muddy cat, or the classmates I passed, it had been a while since I last went out, but it wasn't for fun. I skipped simply with a destination in mind. But you know, I'm not the kind of girl who blatantly skips without reason. I have a very good reason for doing so. It's because I'm going to meet someone who I like almost unbearably. That reason may or may not be a good one, though no student would casually skip around like I am, and several students I passed shot me strange glances. But that doesn't matter to me at all. Girls crying, a lover's quarrel, a person stuck in a wheelchair, not even a person falling from anemia can stop me from skipping. I want to see the one I love, and I want to see him soon. My body shivered at that thought. I skipped up the stairs, not caring whether my skirt flapped too much or not, and continued to skip through the courtyard. And I kept Huh? At that point, I suddenly stopped. Where was I going? I looked around and realized I didn't recognize where I was. My heart thumped heavily. It's okay. I would try to calm myself desperately. I took out a notebook from the backpack I was carrying, and I looked at the last page of the notebook and read a sentence written there. In the East District of Hope's Peak Academy is the biology building. On the third floor is the Neuroscience Institute. I felt a refreshing breeze. Right. It was the biology building. Huh? Where was the biology building again? My heart thumped loudly again. It's fine. I hurriedly flipped through the notebook pages until my eyes located a crudely drawn map. This is Hope's Peak Academy's East District. So that's where I am. I punched the air in an unintentional pose. I quickly jumped onto the fountain in the middle of the courtyard and compared the buildings I saw to the ones that I saw on the map. There are literature, science, physics, art, health, language, and faculty buildings. My thigh was getting wet from the stray droplets of the fountain. I was looking desperately for the biology building as if it were my first time visiting. I wonder if that's it. I saw a square building with a distinctive light green coloring. It seemed to line up with what I had drawn in my notebook. All right. I jumped from the fountain and ran to the building. Some of the boys nearby looked surprised. I wonder if my skirt flew up a little too much while jumping off the fountain. That doesn't matter right now. In any case, though I don't remember it, I have arrived at my destination. I ran to the biology building in an incredibly fast dash. At the back of the lobby, I found the stairs. I skipped up 3 flights of stairs and finally arrived on the 3rd floor. As I ran along the corridor, I confirmed where I was by checking the plates on top of the door. At the end of the corridor, I came to a plate reading Neuroscience Institute. I quickly stopped. I took a deep breath and checked my hair and smiled in my hand mirror. Yep, cute as always. I kept my smile to max. Hello! I entered the laboratory with a bright, full voice, and then it happened. Whoosh! The sound of air being cut through ran past my ear. Huh? In retrospect, I said that rather meekly. I turned around, swallowing a panicked feeling, and saw a knife stuck on the wall next to me. I let out a yelp and jumped back. Why was there a knife thrown at me? There was a chiding voice from inside the room. Shut up! I heard that voice and my heart leapt. While my heart was pounding, I looked to find the source of the voice. A man lying on a bed in the middle of the room. You're late, even for someone as ugly as you. He dressed sloppily, wearing a dirty white shirt. He doesn't even so much as glance away from the manga he's holding above him. For someone so ugly, you sure are loud. Come to think of it, I'm just so scared over a little scalpel is also kind of weird. Wait a moment, I interrupted him hurriedly. It's discriminatory to keep calling me ugly. And who are you going to report me to? The Japanese Association of Ugly People? That kind of place is discrimination just by existing. He kept looking at his manga while continuing his ugly attack. The one who's in charge of the Neuroscience Institute. The one who's in charge of my treatment. And my childhood friend is the one that I like unbearably much. This is the super high school level neurologist, Matsuda Yasuke, probably. Ah, I get it. You remember that weird association, right? Is that why you're so angry? No, I'm not, and I'm not ugly. Is that right? I guess you aren't ugly after all. I puffed out my chest, grinning. Yeah, I know. I checked in my hand mirror just a minute ago, and I meant to say you're super ugly. Super ugly! I was very shocked and couldn't even think of a response. Don't lie, I'm not ugly. I'm cuter than most people in this world. But no matter how much I fussed, Matsuda could never let his eyes leave the manga book, and he replied, I know what you would say, but I reserve judgment to myself so I can say you're ugly. He passed off my arguments as if they were nothing more than the wind. Well then, tell me which part of me is ugly. Tell me which clinic I can get my ugliness fixed from. I cried out in desperation. Is it my eyes? Or my mouth? What about my voice? Your heart, mostly. I can't get my heart fixed in a clinic. Oh really? What a poor unfortunate thing. Your face is bad and so is your personality. There's no salvation for someone as ugly as you. Perhaps you should use your ugliness as an object of sympathy? I'm sure if you stand in front of a train station with a donation box, you'll earn at least a little. My shoulders dropped as I became disappointed with that disappointment. With that disappointment. With that disappointment, I let my hands relax in a limp state and they hung by my sides. In any case, who are you? Huh? I found his words surprising and looked up at him. I've only heard your voice, so I don't know who you are yet. You were talking to me this entire time, you didn't know who I was? You still haven't said your name or anything informative. That's pretty rude. My name or any... Look at me. Look at me. Look, it's me! I don't have time to look, Matsuda-kun said while indulged reading his manga. I'm reading. Don't have time? It's just a manga. If you ask me, if you had to choose between the manga and me, who would it be? I'd still be listening to you, but as far as looking, I'd choose the manga any day. I see. So no matter when I came here, your manga would still be more important. That's too cruel. I didn't want to be told that. It's better if you just tell me who you are quickly. I get it. I took my notebook out of my backpack and read the cover. Otonashi Ryoko's memory notebook. As I read it, I remembered. I remembered my name. It seems my name is Otonashi Ryoko. Maybe? Can't even remember your own name? There's only one person I know who's that stupid. Matsuda-kun let out a sigh. Well then, at least you're not a suspicious person. Could it be you threw that blade at me earlier, mistaking me for a suspicious person? Is that what you're saying? That's right. I'm not the kind of guy who throws blades at people I know. That's an absolute lie. I pointed my finger at Matsuda-kun. Before even checking to see who I was, you said things like, "You're late for being ugly." Or, "For an ugly person, you're really loud. You should have realized who I was." Thump. That was a sound made when Matsuda-kun closed his manga finally. He bounced up from the bed with the help of the cushion and he determinedly walked toward me, looking me straight in the eyes. Huh? What? What's wrong? I stared at him and I felt a hot feeling all over my body. You did remember that? Huh? Matsuda-kun gripped my shoulders firmly. He looked me dead straight in the face and slowly grew closer. In a harsh tone of voice he said, "You remember me calling you ugly when you walked in?" I forced myself to stare at Matsuda-kun in the face. My chest was pounding and my heartbeat skyrocketed. Well, it seems like that maybe I'm getting better? I answered and felt myself start to turn an embarrassing shade of pink. He released my shoulders and turned away from me. With his back turned from me, I heard him mutter under his breath, "Is it really better? Or has it worsened?" Huh? What has? Don't worry, it's nothing. Matsuda-kun shook his head and said in a commanding tone of voice, "Right, get on to bed. Better get this over with quickly." My heart is still pounding faintly. I put down my backpack and laid down on the bed Matsuda-kun was sleeping on just a short time ago. I felt my body on the soft sheets and smelled his scent, letting it tickle my nostrils. It's definitely Matsuda-kun's scent. I smelled it as I laid on the bed and felt his body temperature. I felt happy. This was a feeling similar to him hugging me. I let out an interesting laugh. Hey, are you laughing? Matsuda-kun stared at me, frowning. You sound like a stupid bug the way you're laughing, and you look like one too. That's too gross. Can't you try laughing at least a little more ordinarily? How is that normal? I think that's even more gross. Matsuda-kun pulled out a rattling trolley from the corner of the room. Somehow balancing on top of the trolley was a complex machine that looked very important. Matsuda-kun pulled the trolley alongside the bed and with a brief, "Let's begin," he gazed firmly at the machine as he started operating it. Before I knew it, I was staring at Matsuda-kun. He had soft, smooth hair, and narrow eyes peeping out from behind it, girlishly long eyelashes, and a pointed chin, thin, small lips, and the slender white fingers. Gross. Stop looking at me, super ugly. And a sharp tongue. That's right. That's Matsuda-kun. I continued lying down and started to write something in my notebook. You don't have to write everything in your notebook, garbage. But if I don't write it down, I won't remember it. As I said that, Matsuda-kun let out a long sigh. Honestly, your head is like a bottomless pit. A bottomless pit? What an awful thing to say, but I suppose it is the case. Everything I see and hear, even if it's something awful, I forget it in an instant. I don't know why. I don't remember a single thing. No matter what it is, my forgetfulness can't be considered normal, that's for sure. But you know, it's not like I forget because I want to. I mean, there's a mental illness or something, isn't there? Can't really be helped, so be a bit nicer. No, well, we can't pinpoint the disease. Matsuda-kun shook his head slightly. A human brain like yours or mine is very complex, and we still don't know everything about it. It's almost like a black box. That's why we can't just cure this disease. He stuck a suction pad onto my face and arms while continuing to talk. There's a part of the human brain we call episodic memory. It records personal experiences and events. Then, the part that creates new memories for the episodic memory is the hippocampus. If the hippocampus is damaged or functioning abnormally, your brain can't create any more episodic memories. There's one case in particular that can be used as an example. There was a man who had a medical procedure to have his hippocampus removed. The story goes that after it happened, he lost the ability to create and store new memories. Since that incident, it's been found that the hippocampus is extremely important to form new memories. However, even if the hippocampus is damaged, it's still possible to create procedural memory, like how to use a tool or how to ride a bike. Of course, you would not actually remember learning how to do it. In short, you would still remember how to ride a bike, even not being able to remember how you learned to ride one. That's more or less the concept. Just a little bit of a breather. I see. So even though I'm forgetful, I never forget to read and write things in my notebook. I raised my notebook at question and nodded with a quick yes, yes. Otonashi Ryoko's memory book. This notebook itself acts as my memory. It's the one thing I can trust absolutely with everything. That is to say, with this notebook, I can live a more or less normal day-to-day life. That being said, there are still many things that challenge my lack of memory in this school. For instance, while in school tests, I can't review my notes, and as a result of my bad grades, I've been suspended from school. Huh? I've been suspended from school? I unintentionally yelled at my notebook. My grades have been that bad? That's awful. Just be thankful you haven't been kicked out altogether. I had to talk to the school officials just to stop them from doing that. Huh? You stood up for me? My chest tightened in delight. I'm so happy. You did such a kind thing for me. Matsuda-kun only scoffed at my comment. I just couldn't risk having my precious research taken from me. Even so, Matsuda-kun had taken the time to do such a nice thing. In your case, your brain doesn't seem to be able to retrieve long-term memories. Perhaps the synaptic connections joining your brain's neurons have been damaged. I can't know for sure until I examine them in more detail. I don't really understand what that means, but I'm just glad I haven't been kicked out. If I had been expelled, I would have been forced to live on the roadside. I don't really have anywhere to go besides this school. I forget everything else. I don't remember my family or anything. And also, it means we won't get to spend any more time together if I dropped out. Being apart from Matsuda-kun, to me, that was unbelievably scary. I trembled a little just saying it. Don't worry about such a stupid little thing, Matsuda-kun put it bluntly. You're extremely good research material that I'm not willing to let go of so easily, for now. But that's just for now. I guess I'm happy, but I need to make sure I don't cause any trouble. Stop complaining. You should be honored you're such important research. Then he said in a condescending manner, in order to understand what triggers amnesia, we need to find the molecular mechanism that it's connected to. Once we find that, our understanding of memory will improve tenfold. We'll even be able to create medications to improve memory. Then, maybe in the future, we'll be able to store backups of our memories on hard drives. If it's possible to create that sort of system, actually, there are studies delving into that currently in foreign countries. By suppressing protein kinase M-zeta, it's been found it's quite possible to erase a lab rat's long-term memory. Sorry if I don't say medical terms properly. Hey, Homo Weirdus. If it's boring, I mean, what can I say? Yeah, I was thinking about that pork chop too. This is probably the research that went into making them forget their memories. Alright. I see. I didn't really understood, but I raised my voice so it sounded like I did. In any case, I'm super happy I can help my beloved Matsuda-kun. A girl with such a hollow mind is going to say hollow things. You really are a hollow girl in the end. I worried since I was so idiotic. I didn't understand what he meant at all, but that's Matsuda-kun for you. Matsuda-kun insisted I take care of myself, though I opposed him on that. He always puts things in very harshly and curtly, not bothering to be delicate with someone like me. But then again, it was troublesome when people would always act sympathetic to me, so in the end, Matsuda-kun spoke to me with just the right attitude. Well, even if I'm hollow, I'm still super happy, because I'm helping my dearest Matsuda-kun, whom I love so much. Not at all discouraged by his words, I yelled out that, and he muttered something in return. Well, you are certainly hopeful, since it's such a rare case. You said rare. That makes it sound special. I was happy to be given such praise. Hey, you said rare, so what's rare about it? Hey, tell me. Hey, tell me. Hey, shut up. Matsuda-kun spat out while releasing another sigh. I guess I won't tell you now, since you're getting too excited for your own good. It's fine. Tell me. My efforts paid off and Matsuda-kun finally told me. It's just strange that someone with such brain-intensive talent has ended up with memory loss. That's what I meant. Talent? Brain-intensive? I thought about it briefly and couldn't think of what he was talking about. It's fine if you've forgotten. I hate it when you use that talent of yours on me. To be truthful, I'd prefer if you would never use it on me. Got it, you stupid bug? I didn't really understand, but hey, he insulted me. I know I caught that at much. Well, I don't mind if I don't remember. I get to spend all these intimate moments with Matsuda-kun, and I'm so kind of glad I have this illness. I already explained, it's not an illness. Matsuda-kun hid the grin on my face by placing more suction pads on my face. But I have to admire that carefree attitude of yours. Even in such a serious predicament, you still laugh and smile. Shouldn't you be worrying? Eh? Why would I be worrying? Well, you know, Matsuda-kun said with a surprised expression. You don't seem to care at all about what I've been telling you. For instance, whether your symptoms will ever be cured. Whether you'll always be like this. Huh? I made a shocked face. There was something funny about what Matsuda-kun was asking me. Not at all. And so I laughed. So what if I only remembered things around me right now? It's not like I can remember having a good memory, so I have nothing to really compare myself to. So I don't think this forgetfulness is really such a drawback. It's more or less what I've been thinking. Your memory loss isn't a disadvantage, but aren't you worried at all about when it began? Or when it will end? I don't really care. I mean, once I'm cured, the treatment will be over. But when that happens, I won't be able to meet you anymore. That's the only thing I'm worried about. After I said that, there was a strange silence. The silence continued for a while until Matsuda sighed and muttered, "You should worry." His voice was low and depressing. What if you'll always be like this? Huh? He suddenly looked up, his face peeking out from behind his dark hair. He looked stiff, deep in thought. Matsuda-kun? He reacted finally when I called his name. No, it's nothing. He looked as though he was trying to figure out something in his mind. He waved his hand to imply that it really was nothing to fuss over. It's really best that you don't get too depressed over your symptoms. It's good that you're so carefree over it. Well, my mind is flexible after all. Yeah, I definitely say flexible. Given that you've forgotten your family and friends and everything about yourself from before you had amnesia struck. Like I said, I don't mind forgetting any of those things as long as I'm with you. Since I forgot about being with anyone else, I figured they just have nothing to do with me anymore. Those words again. Matsuda-kun said while taking a brief moment to blink. If you keep saying they have nothing to do with you, then aren't you afraid then you'll end up no longer being you? It's fine, since I'm with you, I answered him cheerfully, full of confidence. Since you're the only person I really remember, as long as I'm with you, I'll never be alone. No, you only remember me because I'm part of the treatment and you're a procedural memory. That's the only reason. You said I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Ah, I get it, Matsuda-kun said, trying to get me to quiet down. He continued attaching the suction pads, pausing briefly to scratch at his chest through the gap between the buttons on his dirty shirt. Did he really understand what I was trying to say? He was probably just tired of dealing with me. Maybe he didn't believe me when I said I remembered him. But I do. Certainly what I call remembering is probably a little different to what a normal person would, but I was telling the truth. I don't know why the music keeps changing at the right time, Pork Chop, but it's just the way the playlist is at. It's doing it automatically. It's called Relaxing and Calm Music from Danganronpa, if you're curious. I've forgotten him, but I'll still remember him. I don't remember any of our conversations or what we've done together. That doesn't mean I don't remember him. Those kinds of things are best left in my notebook. What I remember is something more important and special. What I remember is a feeling, rather than a memory. It's not something I remember in my head, nor something in my mind. What I remember are feelings from Matsuda-kun. But when I do see him, I remember the feeling I have in my heart. And it feels like it's trying to tell me he's something important. He's absolutely irreplaceable to me. So no matter how forgetful I become, I'll never forget Matsuda-kun. The connection between Matsuda-kun and I are more than just memories. In short, the bond we share is a miracle. And, would you shut up already? Huh? My mind quickly returned to the real world. How could you hear my thoughts? I was about to jump away, but Matsuda pinned down my head. If you move around too much, the cords will come off. What a waste of human life. He said those harsh words as though he thought I really meant to pull off the cords. But I wasn't even talking aloud. Ah, you told me to shut up. Is it possible you were telling my pounding heart to shut up? That's impossible. 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 If it stopped beating, I'd die. I was talking about outside. Huh? Outside? Matsuda-kun raised his chin and pointed out to the window. As I listened, I could hear a variety of strange noises coming from the other side of the window. Jeers, roars, hooting, accusations, and repulsion all combined to make something that sounded almost as if the earth was tremoring. It was a collection of harsh, hate-filled voices. What is that? It's the parade. Honestly, it's been growing louder and louder every day. Parade? You don't mean that parade, do you? Bullshit. You don't even remember what I'm talking about. Matsuda-kun hit my forehead. Then he put on a serious expression and continued with his explanation. To be straight, it's a demonstration. The faculty, though, or rather those idiots from the steering committee, decided it would be better to give it a ridiculous name like parade. But a parade isn't really a demonstration, is it? That's exactly the point. Although a demo isn't really... it's not shocking. Matsuda-kun decided to just ignore me. It's the people from the preparatory school. The preparatory school? I don't think I've heard of it before, have I? You really don't remember after all. Well, it can't be helped for someone with such a large head like yours. Wait, it's sexual harassment to call a girl's head large. You're like it's someone straight from the Edo air. Oof. Matsuda-kun pushed me down by my head just as I was about to stand up again. Firstly, Hope's Peak Academy isn't an institute purely for teaching unlike other schools. Here, talent isn't only taught, but it's also researched. It's the same for the teachers. They're not only here for teaching, but also they're here for scientists. But scientists are nasty things. They tried to advance the research more, but there was something they were lacking. Do you know what it was? It was probably funds. That's it. I was disappointed I lost my chance to answer and ended up only saying a little. Up until now, Hope's Peak Academy gained its funds from government grants and donations from the school's alumni, but many felt as though the school was not receiving enough funding, and research was slowed. The steering committee was obviously disappointed. Thus, in order to further pursue talent, they created a preliminary system. I nodded my head and hummed in agreement. The point is, there's us, super high school levels, or the regular students, and then there are the reserve students. Sorry, I have to burp a little bit. We're all situated in the East District while they're all in the West, so we don't know much about each other. But what I do know is they seem to be completely different from us. Firstly, they don't seem to be scouted out, and they have to sit through a normal high school entrance exam. Secondly, our school teachers are scientists who live at the school, while they bring the preparatory school teachers from outside. So then, it's just a normal high school? Yeah, that's right. But even so, the school was flooded with applicants from students. Brand power really is something. Matsuda-kun spat those words. That said, as far as the public were concerned, this private school, which up till now had only scattered its students, had opened its doors to everyone. Of course, people would flock to such a brand name. Also, this place was able to collect money by people paying with an arm and a leg just to get in. So, this place has become much more crowded recently. Of course, the school grounds have widened a fair bit, and much of the envy of many experts. We built more top-of-the-range facilities. One after the other, the school has rapidly grown in size. It's just, no one would have thought Hope's Peak Academy would have changed so dramatically in size in just 2 years. And that's the story about the power of the steering committee. But isn't that kind of a ripoff? It seems like it, but it's just the kind of world we live in. Matsuda-kun distorted his face into a bitter smile, and then he continued. Right now, Hope's Peak Academy is set up in a pyramid sort of idea that a third world country would use. It's only really there to concentrate its effort on the super high school levels, for their benefit, and then below them are the reserve students from the preparatory school. Apparently it's possible to move up from the preparatory school to the regular school, but it's questionable as to whether anyone has actually managed it. The teachers here don't really think any of the reserve students really belong here. They shouldn't be teachers. Well, they are teachers. But more importantly, they're scientists, and they're not interested in those students. That's what it seems like to me. They have their eyes set on the talent of humanity. But that's totally unfair. As I said that, I puffed out my cheeks without thinking. Of course it's unfair. If it wasn't, that demonstration wouldn't be happening. But having said that, Matsuda-kun cut off there and changed his tone of voice. I don't think it was them who planned this. It's more likely someone else's plot. I feel like that must be it. Huh? Matsuda-kun narrowed his eyes toward the window. The roughness from his glare caused me to hesitate to say anything. Oi, ugly! After a while, Matsuda-kun said something after remembering. Make sure you write down some of our conversation in that notebook of yours. You can't just brush it off as it's not my problem. Those reserve students don't seem to be very interested in us. Well, I don't think they'd attack you or anything, but it pays to be careful. Right. Got it. I replied. I noticed my face was so covered in suction pads that I could barely move my mouth. I'm going out for a while. You can sleep if you want. Matsuda-kun only said that and started to walk away from me. But I'm not sleepy at all. My voice filled with anxiety, and just outside of my peripheral vision I could hear Matsuda-kun answer. In that case, why don't I give you some sleeping pills? Say, around a dozen? Eh? Wouldn't that be a lethal dose? Is that really okay? I could feel myself growing increasingly worried until Matsuda-kun came back. On top of his stained white shirt, he was now wearing a school jacket. Don't you dare touch any of my machines while I'm gone, or I'll kill you. So where are you going? Just on a few small errands. In any case, don't you dare touch any of my machines while I'm gone, or I'll kill you. I could tell he was being serious, because he repeated it. But I wouldn't mind if it was Matsuda-kun who killed me. Jesus Christ. I don't want to. That's too grotesque for me. Not as grotesque as someone who spends all day studying the human brain. Of course, I wouldn't say that out loud to him. Ah, so when you've come back from running those errands, let's watch a movie together. A movie? Yeah. What was it called again? I flipped through my notebook to see if it contained any memories of any movies. Ah, this is it. Let's see. It takes place at the McAllister household where two robbers, Harvey and Marv... You don't mean Home Alone, do you? It's no surprise you've already forgotten, but you bugged me about this movie before. A lot. So we've already seen it. Oh, we have? Have we? Well then, I flipped my notebook again looking for memories of other movies I wanted to see, but Home Alone was the only one written down. It's just his own fault for letting me watch it. Well, I'm sure it was a masterpiece. It'd definitely be interesting to watch again. It certainly wasn't a bad movie, but I don't think it's something I would normally watch again. Normal? Did you say normal? Then what would you Stop asking me stuff that sounds like it came out of a junior high school girl's diary. He looked at me with disgust, but I was determined not to give up. That's fine. I got a feeling it will be just as interesting to watch it a second time. Then I flipped through my notebook quickly again. Ah, according to what I wrote down, the star, Macaulay Culkin, is super cute. He's cute. Isn't that great? Why would I think that's great? Anyway, his name is Macaulay Culkin. Wacoal are women's underwear. Wacoal? Okay. It says here that he's ultra cute and I wanted to adopt him for my own. But you don't know what Culkin looks like now. Looks like now. You sound like a pervert. A pervert? I was beaten down by his sharp tongue. Matsuda-kun narrowed his eyes more while sweeping his bangs away from his face. It's fine. Just shut up and go to sleep already. Apparently it seemed like he was done talking to me. Wait! Don't go! I said desperately, trying to stop him. I don't want you to. No, no, no. I'll be lonely if you go. It's been such a long time since we last met up and I'll be lonely when you leave. A long time? Matsuda-kun stopped suddenly in mid-stride. Why do you think it's been a long time since we last met up? Huh? I asked, why do you think it's been a long time since we last saw each other? With his back turned, his voice sounded like he was pushing back a painful feeling. Having heard that, I was only confused. Well, because I can feel my heart thumping. That was the excuse I used. So, your heart wouldn't be pounding so loudly if we saw each other every day? No, that's not it. That's not what I meant. Anyway, we saw each other yesterday. Huh? Really? Just as I thought. Your memory isn't getting any better. Matsuda-kun slacked his posture, looking disappointed. So then, you lied about being able to remember me, too. Wait a second. Don't jump to conclusions. I hurriedly flipped through my notebook from the start to end, but I didn't find any mention of meeting with Matsuda-kun yesterday. I looked up again, but I couldn't see Matsuda-kun anywhere. Cheh, he won. Well, there's nothing more I can do. Ah, geez, I guess I have to sleep then. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. At least if I sleep, I can immerse myself in dreams away from this lonely place without Matsuda-kun and into my dreams of him. Feeling such hope in my chest, I moved onto my side, being careful not to remove any of the suction pads on my face. And I smelt Matsuda-kun's scent on the pillow, as if I were a puppy. Hoo hoo hoo! I pressed my cheek against the pillow. Hoo hoo hoo! Matsuda-kun's scent. Then I closed my eyes. This is a long chapter, by the way. The other chapters were shorter. My vision blacked out and my other senses sharpened. Soon my entire world was filled with the smell of Matsuda-kun. No, that's not all. I hear a voice somewhere, and came tumbling into the world of Matsuda-kun and me. It was a lot of voices, overflowing with hate. They pounded in my ear and filled me with uncertainty. I quickly tried to block them out. It's not my problem, but I think I've forgotten how to fall asleep. I can't go to sleep quite yet, but I want to soon. If I fall asleep, I can go over to the world where Matsuda-kun is. I want to see Matsuda-kun again. Matsuda-kun, 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 on and on. As I thought more about seeing Matsuda-kun in my dreams, I slowly peacefully fell asleep. Woo! Alright, I'm gonna take a bit of a breather there. Because that's only 4 of 16, I believe it is. Just recheck that. Yep, there's about 16 of these, and they do appear quite long, so I'm probably not going to read all of it today. I don't know how much of it I will read. I think maybe I'll do an hour. Of course, then if I do an hour and do about 4 chapters, that'll take about 4 days to do. So, and well, of course, the first 2 were shorter. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll do 4 chapters a session. You know, give myself, because it is a bit tiring to read this out loud a little bit. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do. I'll read 4 chapters today. It'll take about an hour to do, and then I'll call it a stream. All right. So I'll do this last one then. So like I said, I'll do about 4 chapters each session. He had arrived at the building with a door that practically oozed a grave atmosphere. He felt tense. He wanted to tell himself off for having such a stupid response. But at the same time, he understood why he felt like that. It was the first time he had entered the faculty building. This place was, so to say, Holt's Peaks Academy Center. Although facilities for the regular students were in the East District, this was the only place they were forbidden from entering. On his way here, he had to explain himself many times to the faculty teachers who stopped him. Inside the faculty building, there was an especially special place. Matsuda Yasuke raised his head and his eyes met the door to the room. The wooden doors were immensely decorated and overflowed with the feeling that no one was allowed to enter them. The plate on the door read, Holt's Peak Academy Steering Committee Room. It was as if this was the very center of the building, in the center of Holt's Peak Academy. This room was a special place where students and even staff rarely entered. This was the only place no one could ever possibly talk about without feeling nervous. But anyway, pull yourself together. Matsuda quietly cleared his throat. The atmosphere was so intense it was almost impossible to muster up any courage. He held his fist up and knocked on the door 2 times. Batch 77 of Holt's Peak Academy. I'm Matsuda Yasuke. He slowly opened the heavy door. Excuse me. The atmosphere in this room was clearly different to any classroom on the campus. The ceiling, pillars, and walls were all extravagantly decorated and gave a very heavy, dignified impression. Matsuda took a step forward. His footsteps were absorbed by the carpet. We are sorry for calling you all the way here. There was an unexpectedly light voice. It was the voice of Holt's Peaks Academy headmaster Kirigiri Jin. No matter how many times Matsuda sees him, he always thinks the same thing. That guy really is young. When Matsuda thought of principals, he would imagine an old man with a gray mustache, wearing a plain suit. So Kirigiri Jin, despite being in his 30s, looked younger. In any case, please take a seat. We don't expect you to stand while talking. In the center of the room was a large circular table. Around it were several antique chairs. Excuse me, Matsuda sat on the chair closest to him. It was directly opposite Kirigiri's seat. The moment he sat down, he could feel the gaze of several people on him. Around the circular table sat 4 older men, each spaced at regular intervals, all staring at Matsuda. They all dressed in jet black suits and ties as if attending a funeral. Matsuda felt them evaluating him as discomfort flooded his breath. Do you know who we are? One of the old men began. His voice was grainy. You're a steering committee, aren't you? We seem to be in debt to you for your help over that incident. What do you mean? The wrinkles on the old man deepened at Matsuda's response. They seemed annoyed that he avoided the topic. You don't need to be so cautious. We know everything about it. Another of the old men spoke out. We know you're the one who helped us interrogate the student who was first to discover the scene. The first to discover. As soon as Matsuda heard those words, his heart began thumping. After hearing that, he immediately replied, "You asked me to interrogate them again?" No, another old man said, shaking his head. We wish to investigate another student. However, there was a problem. Thankfully, this problem is exactly your field of expertise. That's why we want your help. Judging from what they said they had already decided, there was that kind of feeling in the air. What if I refuse? There was a silence, while the old man laughed. Quietly at first, but it slowly grew louder. Soon the others joined in. 2 people, 3 people. They were all laughing now. Laughter seemed to ridicule him, echoing throughout the whole room and stabbing him from all directions. Oi! Matsuda-kun! Suddenly the laughter stopped. Do you think you really have a choice? The voice was filled with a condescending tone. That patient you're treating, despite her absence from school, her health doesn't seem to have improved at all. Matsuda frowned. What are you saying? You're still a student. We'd rather not have you wasting time on a child that has no chance of being cured. Those words filled with cynicism floated around the room. That is to say, we can't really afford to continue housing a student that will most likely not be returning to classes. This is the place to nurture talent. Those aides who aren't up to it should just leave. But that being said, if you agree, shut the fuck up, old man. What? Blah, blah, blah. You're only spouting fucking nonsense. Quickly, the atmosphere of the room changed, and the tension rose. Why, you insolent. Matsuda stood up, and the old man froze. He stared at all of the older men. No, there were a lot of anger and contempt put into it, so it was more of a glare. It was the look you gave an insect when stomping on it. Drop out? Idiot? Let me tell you one thing. I'm the one who can call her those things. You should let... I said shut the fuck up. Matsuda easily quietened the men by saying that, and then he continued in a soft voice. People might call her an idiot, but she doesn't even bother to stick up for herself, thinking she can't do it. So I don't think I'd be able to forgive myself if I don't do it for her. He looked at the steering committee. The atmosphere wasn't really macabre or anything. It was just intimidating. How was someone who was only still a teenager able to control a situation with such ease? No, I should have already known the answer to that. It was the power of talent. It was the power of Hope's Peak Academy's hope. Ah, may I say something? A new voice cut in. It belonged to Kirigiri Matsuda. Kirigiri. Matsuda redirected his gaze to him. It's just that I would like to contribute a little to this conversation. A little bit of a water sip. There we go. Kirigiri put on a wry smile and scratched his head. His attitude seemed very laid back and relaxed. His momentum shattered. Matsuda slowly closed his eyes, let out a large sigh and sat down again. Having watched Matsuda do so, Kirigiri continued in a calm voice. Matsuda-kun, this is the only request. However, this isn't just us asking this. This is all of Hope's Peak Academy. The thing is, we'd like you to listen to what we are telling you and help us. Matsuda stared at Kirigiri in silence. Still trying to weigh what he was saying, Kirigiri glanced at Matsuda and went on. This is just a rumor, but having heard it, I think it may be more. After having covered that, he delved into the main issue. After all this time, I do not think it is necessary to explain what that incident is, but it may be good to start from there to refresh your memory. He cleared his throat and raised his hands, so they were in front of his chest. He glanced at all the people in the room and continued. I can't believe it. It's already been a month since it happened. Since such an appalling incident occurred at the school, it already seems like nothing more than a bad dream. But it really happened. One of the old men yelled out, interrupting him. 13 people, another shouted. 13 victims, and we still know little to nothing about what happened. How could this have happened at our school? Now that their voices had subsided, there was something Matsuda wanted to confirm. So then, you still haven't contacted the police? Of course not. What would happen if we did contact them? How would that solve anything? This isn't simply a matter of catching the culprit. But what about the relatives of the victims? That doesn't matter, the old man interrupted. You don't need to worry about that. Judging from what they were saying, it seems like there were a lot of things already happening behind the scenes. They must have been asking a lot of graduates in high places to pull some strings. For a place like Hope's Peak Academy, of course, they'd have many powerful connections. But if a place like Hope's Peak Academy fell, it would be bad for mankind. Fine, I won't worry about it. So then, what was it you wanted me to do? Is there something about another person you need my help with? We need help. We need you to help us extract information from that person to help us clarify the truth behind that incident, Kirigiri replied. You say clarify the truth. Aren't you trying to cover it up? Isn't that just a contradiction? Covering it up? Matsuda was the only student to have been told that. He promised to cooperate with the school if he was given better facilities and equipment. In that sense, he was just another scientist. That's not the real reason why he's cooperating, but no one besides Matsuda knew that. Indeed, it certainly sounds like a contradiction, Kirigiri replied after some hesitation. However, I believe it is a necessity. We wish to thoroughly hide that incident. There's still too many things we don't know yet. We cannot hide something we do not fully understand. So first we need to discover the full picture behind that incident. We must completely cover it up, for Hope's Peak Academy's sake. As he said that, Kirigiri's gaze did not stray. We need to do anything we can to protect Hope's Peak Academy. Together, you have to sacrifice something in order to protect something. But we're not entirely working together. That's what Matsuda thought. So then who is it? The student who you want me to interrogate. Kirigiri wet his lips and answered Matsuda carefully. We did not mention this to you before, but in addition to the person you knew who discovered the scene of that incident, there were 2 survivors. 2 survivors? That's the first Matsuda had heard of them. Of course, we are certain they have some information on the incident in question. We would have questioned them immediately after the incident to hear their story, but we were unable to due to some circumstances beyond our control. Circumstances? One of the students never recovered consciousness and is still in comatose. The other student is fortunately unhurt, but went missing. The whereabouts are still unknown. One in comatose, the other is still missing. In that case, it's impossible to question either of them, but there's still some possibility. To summarize, you asked me if I can learn anything from the student currently in comatose. Kirigiri nodded his head. Yes. Learning the truth in order to hide it. Feels like there's something distorted in that line of thought. But in the end, this request was convenient for Matsuda. This might be your chance. This might be your chance to protect her. Understood, Matsuda finally answered. Please do what you can. Can you manage it? While the old man had shot up out of his chair quickly and was leaning forward with momentum. I can't say for sure yet. Depends on what they're like. I'll do my best either way. Matsuda replied bluntly and returned his gaze to Kirigiri. He had one more thing he wanted to ask him. What will you do about the missing person? I'm sure you don't plan to just let them roam freely. After a short silence, Kirigiri leaned forward and watched him. Is there something you're worried about? Kirigiri narrowed his gaze into a glare, and Matsuda found himself desperately wanting to look away. No, I was just curious. Anxiety filled his voice. He tried to hide it, though. But isn't it suspicious? Going missing? I mean, what if he's the murderer? The person who's in a coma couldn't have done it. That's just what I was thinking. At that moment, the steering committee began to mutter to themselves. However, Kirigiri kept his composure. Indeed, it is certainly suspicious that they went missing in such circumstances. That's why what? Kirigiri forcefully cut off Matsuda's words. If we do not uncover the truth behind the incident, it will be the end of the school. The end? His choice of words caught Matsuda's attention. Perhaps there was something special about that student. One student's name in particular wandered into Matsuda's head. It was a name he had only heard in rumor. Up until now, he had only thought it was an urban legend or something out of an occult. But if that person really exists, then surely they would have something to do with this. If that's the case, it makes more sense. It makes more sense to refer to it as the worst, largest incident in Hope's Peak Academy's history. This could reasonably be called the worst. As that thought came to mind, a drop of sweat ran down Matsuda's forehead. And that is the end of Chapter 4. Let me check Chapter 5 quickly. Oof. Whoa, damn. It's actually quite long. I think I will end that here today. Because reading something like this is kind of energy consuming, so I'd rather save my breath and continue another day. But I thank you for those who have come to listen to me read this book. And hopefully, I know Porkchop's mainly the one who has not heard of this yet, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Real name and Iriru, thanks for coming along with me for this. And hearing so far. And remember, we do have 2 books to go through, so it could take 4 days to go through book 1, or volume 1, and then book 2, I have in the link in the Discord. This is not something that's going to get people to come watch me, though, but it's fine. There we go. 0 volume 2. Just want to check how long this one is. Is another 16 chapters, so it could take me around 8 days to finish Danganronpa 0 if I do 4 chapters at a time. Thanks, Porkchop. And real name, I don't know if you've You were looking at memes while listening to this. Anyways, yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you again when I do it sometime this week probably. Since I'll do about an hour, it's an easy stream to do. So until then, so long.